and we're going to go over to what's going on in the United Nations in relation to the war in Gaza. This morning, so February 20th, America vetoed a ceasefire resolution in the United Nations again. Now, this ceasefire resolution was written by Algeria. In this ceasefire negotiation, it called for an immediate ceasefire and the return of all hostages without concessions. Now, the reason that America is saying that it's vetoing this is because it doesn't want an immediate ceasefire, because it doesn't know the logistical strength of an immediate ceasefire, if one is even possible. This is what it's saying. I don't believe that. Then it's saying that this statement of a ceasefire does not condemn the October 7th attacks. Now, Algeria was asked to include a condemnation of the October 7th attacks by Hamas against Israel, and they refused to put that in. So that's, I think, a fair reason to veto the resolution for a ceasefire. I think that's fair, to be honest.
I mean, I agree that they should have a condemnation, but is a condemnation going to have any impact on the substance? Like,
will a resolution have any impact on the substance?
I suppose not, but it doesn't change what they're asking for. What they're asking for is a ceasefire and release of all the hostages, right? The reason, like the story they tell in the resolution, probably matters much less.
I disagree because I think the United Nations is basically a play toy. All of it's political. It doesn't actually have any way to leverage its power.
Yeah.
All it has is its words.
Okay.
And so if you don't have this type of language in that, I can imagine how the U.S. and Israel can look at that as unfairly stacking the deck.
Okay.
By saying that condemnation isn't in there.
Sure.
But
yeah, that makes sense. The one other thing I'll say that I saw,
it's not like the UN passes this and then a ceasefire happens. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. The other thing I saw about the U.S. And their reluctance to pass this particular ceasefire is they said that the negotiations that are currently happening for hostage release are sensitive, and pushing through this particular ceasefire resolution right now might interrupt those.
Yeah. And
which we can't know about.
And that's why they're saying the immediacy of the ceasefire is the issue, right? Because there are hostage negotiations going on at this moment, right? So then how does that play in with the immediacy of a ceasefire? But the United States, to its credit, and I will give them credit where they deserve it, I guess, they are proposing their own ceasefire resolution.
Yes.
They are proposing their own ceasefire resolution that is calling for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza as soon as practicable. So it's changing the immediacy of a ceasefire to as soon as practicable, which is pretty gross. But, because now that's just going to be able to use by Israel to say when Hamas is dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like Israel's going to take that as practicable as when Hamas is totally gone.
Yeah.
So there are other Security Council members who have specifically said, like, this falls way short of what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
This is not the goal. But the U.S. does know they have to do something because Israel is on the path of doing something egregious in Rafah right now.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah. So on February 9th, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that he has ordered the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and the Israeli Security Establishment to prepare a combined plan to evacuate civilians and to destroy Hamas's forces in Rafah. Now, if you don't know where Rafah is, it is on the southern side of Gaza, borders Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is the most densely populated region currently of Gaza.
Yeah, so basically as Israel is attacked, like they started at the very north part of the Gaza Strip, and as they've gone down, they've told the residents of Gaza to keep moving further and further south to get away from their attacks. To be clear, they have already also struck Gaza, or southern Gaza, including Rafah.
They have hit Rafah, one of the most densely populated regions on Earth, with 2,000-pound bombs. Now, the United States does not use 2,000-pound bombs on urban areas. Israel does.
Yeah. So the fact that they're saying, oh, now we're about to go in and strike, they're about to level Rafah the same way they have already Gaza City, right? And this is the place that they told all of these people to go, supposedly to be safe from their strikes.
So now he's saying the IDF needs to go in and evacuate all the civilians. You just destroyed all their homes.
Yeah.
Where are they evacuating
them to? Where?
To?
Yes.
Evacuate them where? Where do they go?
It's ridiculous. Like the the pretext that they can just constantly move somewhere else. They can always just go somewhere to safety as long as they're not in the one place. It's not true, especially because like these countries don't want to take Gazans in, like these other countries in the region. They don't want
Egypt has
these
no
2 million
desire.
people.
Egypt has no desire to take any Gazan refugees.
No.
Zero.
Yeah. So like there's no, it's, I mean, and I think that plays into Israel's strategy.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course, Israel's been able to, play the different Arab states against one another. Some for good reason, right? You had, Palestinians becoming a part of Jordan, and then I think they plotted to kill the king of Jordan.
Yeah.
You had situations where the Islamic Brotherhood in Egypt was causing a bunch of problems, and then a lot of those guys move over to Gaza.
Yeah.
So Egypt doesn't want them back in.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I get it, but it's just, it leaves the civilians of Gaza in just a devastating position.
Yeah.
And the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Martin Griffiths of the United Nations, said that over half of Gaza's population is, quote, crammed in Rafah, staring death in the face, with little to eat, almost no access to medical attention, and nowhere safe to go. He added that military operations in Rafah could lead to a slaughter in Gaza, leaving the humanitarian response at death's door. The United States and Biden needs to do something to stop this
from happening.
Attack.
Yeah.
Israel cannot be allowed to go into Rafah. If Israel does go into Rafah in the way that they plan on doing it, as stated, Biden needs to do some sanctions against Israel and stop any type of funding going on until it's over, because this is too much.
Yeah, this is
it's been too much for too long, but this is ridiculous now. And Biden, obviously, right, it's been too much for too long.
Yeah.
Biden did come out and say earlier this week, or maybe late last week, that he's no longer in lockstep with Benjamin Netanyahu on this, which is good. I feel like I don't really know many other times where a president has said they're not in lockstep with something Israel's doing. I
suppose not, but again, there's
just not enough.
There's no comparable situation to this in history, you can't even. It's hard to try to make that comparison. It's not nearly enough. You look at the sanctions that the U.S. has put on Russia, and you realize that like if the U.S. responded to Israel a quarter of that harshly, right? Thousands of lives would have been saved already. So the fact that he's still dragging his feet, he's trying to maintain this alliance, but it's just like, it seems like it can't possibly be in our interest anymore.
No.
It's completely delegitimizing us as the global hegemon.
Yes.
Right? Where we have been a relatively good one.
Yes.
Over the past several decades.
Yes.
Now we are accurately painted as the bad guy, as evil.
Yeah. And now what I hope comes from this is Israel has pushed America too far. And finally something's going to break.
Hopefully.
And the Biden administration can, look Benjamin Netanyahu in the face and tell him that he's gone too far.
I have two questions.
I just hope he does. If not, it's like, I don't know.
It's just like the evil US that, like, I don't know, liberals,
talk
leftists
about.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'd be right to talk about it.
Exactly.